All right, we are back here on the Sky Guys podcast. It is finally here. The season premiere of Mandalorian season 3 is finally here. We're talking about chapter 17, the Apostate. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. Joining us as always, the man who's disembodied voice here in the narration every single week, coming to us live from Coruscant once again, Pete Consadori. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Mandalorian is back. We're finally here after speaking about it for how many months now. So I'm very excited to talk about it, and I'm excited to hear what your opinions are on the first episode.
Yep. Also, today, the High Magistrate of this podcast, Nick Fraietta, is here. Nick, how are you?
Fantastic. This is, if you think about it, we started doing this podcast pretty much right when Mando season 2 ended, basically, right?
Yep.
And that was kind of the point, was Mandalorian. Let's cover the stuff. And here we are finally 2.5 years later. So I guess you can say this is our non-side story. This is our main episode.
Yeah, this is the
main Sky Guys, that is.
Yeah, this is the main quest here. We've gone through all the side missions. We went to the Boba Fett side mission, took detours, Obi-Wan and Andor, and 3 different animated shows, and now we are at the main event. All right, as we always do here, Pete, we let people know if you want to subscribe to us here on the Sky Guys, check us out at Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, and on all the usual suspects. Those who are just on the Suffering podcast, you're listening for the Mando recap. You got to wait a few days so. Day after recording, you get the Sky Guy stuff, plus all our Bad Batch episodes going on there, too, so you should subscribe.
Yeah, exclusive content there. If you're not subscribing, you're missing out on that, so definitely subscribe so you can get the content quicker and also get that exclusive content that you're not hearing normally on the Just on the Suffering feed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of the time the Bad Batch episodes, well, admittedly, are not great, but I think our recaps are fun.
I agree. Yeah, no, we're the good part of Bad Batch.
I mean, there's a reason we're on the MVP board for the Bad Batch.
There you go.
All right, Nick. Also, if you want to follow social media, how can they do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast, that's both on Twitter and on Instagram.
Yep, for sure. Here, you also follow us on YouTube. Mike Phillips on YouTube. Video version of the podcast is up on YouTube with our fancy graphics plus our props here. I always bring in Nick and Pete. I'm gonna bring in the big guy here. We're bringing Mando's N1 Starfighter here is a big part here of the episode this week.
Yeah, and I currently have a unbuilt Tusken Raider.
Yep.
Of my background's messing it up. I think they have labeled it as not Book of Boba Fett, just as the original trilogy. But yeah, the only Boba Fett character that mattered other than Mando.
Yeah.
And I also have a guest joining us today. So those who don't know, probably none of you know actually, except the two of you. I celebrated a birthday about a week and a half ago, and because I celebrated a birthday, I received a gift from Bill Fraietta and family, and I got Mando here. Mando and Grogu in the pop.
Yeah, so Nick breaking the props out today.
I got the Funko Pop prop, Mando and Grogu.
Very nice. So that's on the board here. So now we're through the plugs. We're going to do our Star Wars news in the Mando episodes here. So Nick, what do you got for us this week?
So I'm assuming you have graphics, especially, and I think you know exactly what I'm referring to.
The directors you need, I'm sure.
Yes.
So give me 1 second to pull that up.
Yeah, so basically they announced the directors for each episode of The Mandalorian this season. That would go from chapter 17 to 24.
Yep, I have it right here. I'm going to pop that up for you.
And here they are on the screen. We have, you know what, Mike? I'm bad with the names. Can you please read them?
Sure. Rick Famuyiwa did today. He's also doing chapters 23 and 24.
And he did, I believe, one in each of the last 2 seasons, at least, right?
Yeah, he's been in the first 2 seasons. He got promoted to executive producer for this season. So he's sort of taking the Robert Rodriguez and Boba Fett role. He's getting the most episodes here. Rachel Morrison, chapter 18 next week. Lee Isaac Chung, chapter 19. Carl Weathers going back into chapter 20. Chapter 21 created by Peter Ramsey. So that's chapter 21. And chapter 22, Bryce Dallas Howard. So that's the director list in order.
Cool. A couple repeats in there, a couple new names, I think, right?
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard and Carl Weathers have both done it before.
Yep. And the other, why do they all say the name and then one of them says by Peter Ramsey?
Maybe it's how you want to be credited.
Yeah, weird. Yeah. But yeah, so that's it. We just have the directors there. The next thing is a little bit of timeline confusion, as Mike worded it in our little rundown, and I agree. Jon Favreau said that the Mandalorian season 1 and 2 take place over, quote, many years. And the time between 2 and 3, meaning the time Grogu was with Luke at least, so really from 2 to 2.5, as we call it, Boba Fett, was 2 years, which just seems completely ludicrous. It seems like if you had to I would say 2 months. Would you agree?
I'd say maybe at most like 5-6 months.
Yeah. I would say maybe up to 6 months. Let's just say 6 months. That's fair. 2 years seems absolutely asinine.
I love the fact that I feel like the many years bothers me almost just as much more. I mean, like, I get, maybe he like spent a few weeks on the sanctuary planet in season 1, and maybe he's bouncing around places in season 2. But like, I feel like this is very off that this is many years they spent together.
Yeah, I think it's hard when you see that and there's only 16 episodes to say many years, right? If it was something where it's a 20 episode season, you want to argue that 20 episodes is a year, sure, why not? That's a long time. I agree. It's kind of weird that it's a 2-year gap between seasons 2 and 3, and that we're just kind of given this very broad many years stamp on seasons 1 and 2. Really, watching this show, it's almost like it just happens one after another. Like I don't feel a time gap. I just I see it as, okay, here's the next season. I don't do a good enough job keeping track of in what time frame we're in.
Yeah, Nick, I think the point for it would be you can look at this episode exactly like how Nevarro developed over the course of the show and like how much they built up. I feel like that's the argument for it takes us over many, many years. But at the same point, two things sway against me. Number one, obviously, like Carl Weathers is an old guy. No offense to him. But like, if it's many, many years, I don't know if his character will still be alive at this point in the timeline. And number two here is like, what exactly is Boba Fett doing for all this time on Tatooine?
Yeah, it's completely silly. And to piggyback off Pete's point, where he said something about I don't remember his point, to be honest with you, but what I wanted to say was it makes sense in a show like The Bad Batch, where you pick up and it's like, oh, where are they now? They're on some planet or they're in some ship. These episodes, maybe not the beginning of the season, but in these shows, like in Andor and in Kenobi, the live action shows, when episode 1 ends, episode 2 starts.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to just meet Mando on Tatooine randomly next episode. He's going to show right where this episode left off, for the most part, maybe a couple minutes later. And that's just, to me, shows that unless there was a significant time jump between season 1 and 2, that this is complete BS.
Yeah, I feel like it is BS here. And P, I'll also point out here in terms of the Boba Fett angle here, I think it makes it even worse. Is like what we end season 2 with Boba Fett, like in the post credits, going sitting on the throne. You're telling me he spent 2 years just waiting to meet the mayor?
No, I think that's why I think it's crap. I don't think it's right.
I almost feel like he doesn't know.
Yeah, I think it was more they don't really want to say, oh, by the way, all of these seasons turn into 1.5 years tops. You're going to be like, well, how are you progressing the story? Probably. So I think he was kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Scrambling for an answer, maybe, if that's the correct quote, that it goes over many years, because there's really I don't know. There's really nothing to distinguish that it's been that much time. I would say, like Nick was saying, there's more evidence to distinguish there's been lesser time than what has been actually been told.
Yeah, that's for sure. Nick, anything else in the news bar? I think there's like one more thing related to Mando.
Oh, they just something real quick, and then we shoot into the episode because it's been a while here. They just said that season 4 is already written. So if we just started 3 and 4 is already written, it means we got a lot of Mando to look forward to in the future.
I think the big thing with that piece, that I feel like that the lag time with production between seasons 3 and 4 is not going to be nearly as long as it was between 2 and 3.
Because we all know that, well, COVID, and we also didn't know that 3 was going to happen. So, yeah, I would expect next year at this time to have season 4.
Certainly possible, or at least the latest early 2025.
I think that'd be too long.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get it next year, I think. Maybe summer.
Maybe back in the fall.
Maybe. But I think we're getting in 24.
I really hope they don't pull the Stranger Things model and say, well, if we prolong it, more people will stay in Disney Plus longer. I think that's why Netflix, I mean, granted, COVID was a thing as well, but I think that's why Netflix takes so long to get Stranger Things out. Now, granted, it's a very complicated show and there's a lot of stuff going on with it, but I'm hoping that they don't say, well, you got to wait till 2026 for the next season of Mando, because that just keeps you subscribed, you know?
To be fair, also, Pedro Pascal has been got interviews to where recently said that he planned on playing the Mandalorian for a long time. So I feel like we might have a lot more Mando coming.
I mean, we're hoping, right?
Yeah. It is the lifeblood of Star Wars right now until they get the movie situation figured out. This is Star Wars. With a side of Andor, this is basically the main Star Wars stuff.
Yep.
And that's it for the news, right?
That is it. It is time to talk about Mandalorian Season 3.
Absolutely here. So season 3 is here. Chapter 7 is in the Apostate. just under 35 minutes with credits, so the shortest episode here, but I feel like they packed a lot in, Pete.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. There's a lot of good setup here. I hope that this is the last episode that sets up a bunch. We'll talk about it a little bit further, but yeah, jam-packed with a bunch of stuff.
Plus some fun fight sequences and whatnot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nick, what'd you think generally?
Of the episode in general, I thought it was really good. I was excited to see everybody back. It seemed like I don't know. It's the way that especially Carl Weathers acting his character was like, yeah, I know this is the first episode. I want everyone like I'm excited to see you. It's hey Mando, let's I don't know. But it was exciting. It was an exciting episode. Set a lot of things up, and I have a massive theory on what happens for the rest of the season. Actually, so I think it set that up very well too.
Yeah, I think a lot of fun stuff here. And P, I know you guys are both video gamers here. I feel like this sort of feels like the game of video games, sort of the way it says up here. You have like all your side quests sort of set up in this episode where, okay, we're gonna, repair the droid, but we need to go get a memory card for him. We have to go find these Mandalorians that no longer work with Bo-Katan. We have to go to Mandalore. So like it's setting up all our side quests and sort of see where like different episodes are going to be filling out different parts of side quests before we go back to the main mission, going to Mandalore and redeeming ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, there was at least 3 main arcs that I could see set up here. Maybe even 4. That kind of scares me a bit for an 8-episode season. However, we definitely have it set up. We definitely have the information. We know what the Mandalorian needs to do. Still kind of feels like here's a mission, go do it. I'm hoping that it doesn't have that feel throughout the season, but like you said, a lot going on. Definitely video game-esque where in the beginning you get a side quest, you get a main mission as you're trying to complete that side quest or whatever, and it definitely has that kind of format.
Yeah, I think it works very well here. Nick, before we move on real quick to the actual episode here, what about what they went included in the previously on for the past seasons here? I thought it was very funny how they didn't even acknowledge the previously on that Mando and Grogu are back together.
No, and I think they did it on purpose because I think that if I had to take one sentence to sum up this episode, this was the recap if you didn't watch Boba Fett. The entire scene with Grief was what happened. I thought you were got rid of that little rugrat, and he explains it, and the same with the armorer. It's the whole thing was just let me explain to people who didn't watch.
Yeah, I did think their line was great though, and like when Grief Karg was asking Mando, P's like, I thought like you were completing your quest, and like you're back here, this little critter. He goes, it's complicated.
I have to say, if I was someone who did not watch Book of Boba Fett, I would still be so freaking confused. I would still be so confused because it's just like, wait a minute, he's not a Mandalorian anymore? Like, wait, what? Why is Grogu back? Even though I saw he's back? Like, I mean, there's a lot of questions they don't really answer with that recap. And I don't want to say it's reckless on their part, but they should understand that maybe Book of Boba Fett wasn't as popular as they think, and that people didn't see that 3-episode arc to show half of the crap that they're probably going to mention in this season. They need to do a little bit better with saying, if you previously on, let's call it Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, like say it was in Book of Boba Fett, and then maybe it gets people to go back or go and watch it and understand the actual story.
And I think the only thing they put in there from Book of Boba Fett was the scene with the armor on the space station, where she's saying like you lost your you removed your helmet, you are now no longer a Mandalorian. Like I think like that would have bothered me in terms of like if I had not watched Boba Fett, because I mean like you come back and if you were in season 2, took like a 3-year nap in space, came back and you wait what happened? They're back together. Where's Luke Skywalker? Like what happened to all these people?
I just can't actually think of how many people are actually impacted by this. There's definitely some. There's definitely a few people. There's no way that number is 0. But that number is really small. Really small.
Yeah.
Like, we're focusing in on like 0.1% of people, if even.
Yeah, I just think it's very funny they just assume that you watch Book of Boba Fett with this.
Which I guess they're kind of. I think it's a safe assumption. Do you know anyone who watched Mando who didn't watch Boba Fett?
Not personally.
I know people who have, but those people did not watch Mando today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. So let's get into this episode here. And I do think we've talked the past, P, about how like the opening sequence is always they have to find a fun way to bring Mando into this and give him a badass entrance here. I thought the way they did this is very fun twist on it, where like we think like we get the sequence of the armorer basically doing a ceremony to initiate someone into the creed. We see that the covert's there, they get attacked by this creature. At first, I thought I got fooled. Thought, oh, maybe it's a flashback to young Din Djarin getting his helmet, and then we see that's actually President because Mando comes out in the N1 Starfighter and just blasts this creature hell. That was a lot of fun.
Another thing that's not explained in Mandalorian, where to get this new ship, right? But yeah, I think it was a really great way to introduce him. He doesn't just kind of start off with him. It was cool to see all the different colored armor and all the different kind of designs and everything. And it was also cool to see that they're still initiating new members of the Mandalorian race, right? I mean, I think we talked about this in the preview show where it's like there's like 3 left. Where what does it matter if I took my helmet off or not? It looks like they're still trying to build up, and it kind of gives the Creed a little bit more a leg to stand on, if you will, because they're actually getting people to join and has still kind of continue with many people, not just like 2 or 3.
Yeah, Nick, what do you think about this sequence here? That's like the beginning here where we see the ceremony where like they are basically doing the Mandalorian baptism.
Well, I completely agree with you. I thought it was a flashback for sure. I was shocked it wasn't.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, someone on the same ship as him? Oh, it's him.
Yeah.
That's not a flashback. I thought it was the whole time, but it kind of makes sense that it wasn't because, like, isn't Vizsla, like, roughly his age, maybe a little older?
Yeah.
Like, they don't say the name exactly, so we don't really know for sure, but I guess it does make sense that it wasn't a flashback, but awesome scene. It was, Pete said it was really cool to see all their helmets and colors and all that, and I agree. But it was also cool to see all their weaponry, like using it against this essentially just giant alligator, right?
Yep.
And it was just awesome to see them all fighting against it. And then you hear the Mando noise, and you go, "Oh, I know what's going to happen now," and there it is.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun scene. And Nick, I do think, as all in terms of all different colored Mandalorians we get, like all the armor and the helmets, I wonder if that comment Bo-Katan makes at the end of the episode about how like, oh, like your Creed like sort of splintered it here, and that she lost a bunch of supporters when she didn't come back to her plan with the Darksaber. So you wonder maybe that like maybe some of them went back to the armor and Paz and said, maybe you guys are right. Maybe we should do it your way.
Do you think it's possible though? Because if they're kicking out the holder of the Darksaber for taking his helmet off once, you think they're gonna let in Bo-Katan's friends?
Well, I mean, if they promise to like uphold the Creed, they haven't been initiated at that point.
But weren't they all initiated in the past and left to join Bo-Katan's clan?
I don't know. It's a very complicated history here. I'm sure we'll get more of it going forward.
Yeah, but I don't know. I was a little confused by one thing. Maybe you can clear it up. Wasn't the whole point of the first 2 seasons he was looking for more Mandalorians, and the armor is like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Mandalorians keep you a lot of secrets, Pete.
And they're all right there. What do you mean you didn't know? They're standing right next to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely secretive. I mean, they live off of don't show your face. So I mean, I think that the armorer is going to play a big role in this season. I think we're going to see a lot of the things that maybe she was working up in seasons 1 and 2. But I do think she's going to play a key role because, like you said, I think she's hiding a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
I did find out why they don't take their helmet off. Like, obviously, it's like part of their like culture, their religion, and whatnot. But I found out where like their military like strategical reason for it is that let's say there were 10 of us, 10 Sky Guys, and the 10 Sky Guys decided to rob a bank, and they saw our faces. It'd be easy to distinguish between us and count how many there are. But when we all look exactly the same, it's harder for you to understand who you're taking down. Like, oh, I got the guy with the beard. All look exactly the same. You can't really say that, and it helps a little bit in a military situation. So that's one of the reasons that they don't take their helmets off.
Definitely fun to know here, and we do get after the stinger with the title card here. You get a lengthy conversation between Mando and the armorer, where he basically presents this thing that he got off of Jawa with he claims from Mandalore, and basically this whole debate about the armorer basically saying, you know what, like, you can't do this. Mandalore's been raised. The wells have been destroyed. And he says, like, basically has this whole conversation where the end result is like he basically gets her to unwillingly admit that like he's actually able to successful that he's back in the Creed. So like I don't know if you got the sense the armorer was like sort of like very hesitant to agree to Mando's terms.
I mean, I did. I think this all could have been summed up by Bo-Katan. I don't think we need the armor. I think this was Disney's attempt at trying to make some sort of understanding for people that didn't watch Boba Fett, because if you think about it, this was already said in Boba Fett. You got to go back to Mandalore to redeem it. That was it. Like, that's all we need to know. Now all of a sudden it's like, well, it's done. You can't redeem it because the plan's over. And he's like, well, no, it's not. Here, I can do this. And then she accepts it. So a little bit of flip-floppy. It was kind of a little weird for me. But but you're right. I mean, very hesitant to try to say like, yeah, you can get back in. It wasn't very accepting of that option.
Yeah, Nick, I think I'm leaning more towards your side, how you don't trust the armor. I feel like she's been very shady the last like season and a half.
Oh yeah, she's got those mole things on her head, so I know she's up to something. She almost seems like she doesn't want him back in because she's hiding something.
Yeah, because there was a very distinct, like, let's say it was a 5 second pause before she says, "This is the way," when he says, like, I would be back in if I went and gave you proof that I bathed in the springs of Mandalore.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. And then she's like, yeah, it doesn't exist. You're not going to do it. In other words, please don't try because if you succeed, you're back in and then you'll find out that I'm working with Maul and he survived a third time. Imagine.
Mr. Maul is incredible lifespan. All right, let's go next to Nevarro here. Oh, Pete, I will point out, did you catch the Easter egg when we were flying in the ship? Then Grogu was like watching the hyperspace route while Mando was...
Pete's favorite Easter egg.
Yeah, I did. I got to be honest with you. I got up and I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? Like, we're gonna start this early? You're gonna do this to me?"
So I actually love it because I think it confirms that Ezra, Thrawn, Ahsoka, maybe not in this show, but I think it really confirms that that's a direction we're moving.
Yeah,
in this Mandoverse, like showing that stuff. And
I was more concerned that we were going to use them, and I was just like, can't. I don't think I could deal with it. I don't know if I could live through it again. But yes, it was a cool Easter egg. As I was watching it, I kind of face palmed like, oh shit, here we go again. But it was a nice little Easter egg, and they moved past it. We didn't have to do 20 minutes of space whales.
Although Pete, the scene at the end where Mando is fighting the pirates felt like they were near the place where they got gas in Rebels.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, Nick, I do think you're right, though. I do think this is a little foreshadowing a bit of like, just here, but like just reminding people. Let's say the Rebels fans, like, hey, like your Ezra Thrawn stuff is coming at some point.
Yeah, and it was honestly a beautiful shot. Like seeing Grogu look out at that stuff, it was really cool to see.
It was really cool. I did like the shot also where he crawls into Mando's arms and Mando is sleeping. That was also cute.
Yeah, I didn't know he has access to the other. I guess he does, right? I didn't realize that until then.
They must have built a chute in there. He could walk.
Yeah.
So we're back on Nevarro here, and Pete, I gotta say, it's the last time we saw Nevarro, the planets got really built up.
Yeah, it's beautiful. They're trying to be the biggest independent trade center of the galaxy, or at least the Outer Rim, or whatever they were saying. So it was definitely cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
When was the last time we were there?
Season 2, episode 4.
The one where Grogu was in school.
Yes.
So really really built up then.
Yeah, it's built up a lot because like we have like all these like street things, free merchants going on here. We have these fancy buildings here,
folk music playing.
Yeah, we got a band there playing outside, and like Greef Karga is now the Hive Magistrate, Nick, and he's got 2 little big Bodo droids like carrying his robes.
Yeah, he's the boss now.
Yeah, I did think
they mentioned Cara Dune too, which was nice.
Yeah, so Pete, we got the Cara Dune mentioned that apparently after they caught Gideon, that the New Republic Special Forces recruited her, and she left the planet to go work for them. So there is no Marshal anymore in Nevarro.
I think the way they dealt with it was perfect. I don't know if I would have liked a recast. So I think the way they dealt with it was perfect. We said it, we got over it, we went past it, and that's it. And it gives an angle too of Greef Karga wanting Mando to stay there, which I think will also add some layers to the story as well for the season.
Yeah, Nick, I think they handled this correctly. I think it's good to put the character in the universe somewhere else. So, like, if there's a point we want to recast down the road, we can do it. We don't do it right now.
Yeah, killing her would have been a bad idea because it would have been a real, like, FU to the fans of the character, the actress itself. I mean, they already fired her. It's already a big FU to her. But having her available out there for the future if you do want to do something is great.
Yeah, I think that worked here, too. Also, I think more emphasis on the IG-11 Memorial P. I think that was a good touch to sort of go back to that. We got a little bit in season 2. I think we got a more defined version of it this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was really good. And they try to use it to their advantage later in the episode.
Yeah, a lot of fun here as well here. I did think we got the scene also, Nick, where like he's in Greef Karga's office and Greef's trying to sell him some real estate and basically find out the whole situation here. Fun Grogu stuff when Grogu is spinning in the chair and stealing the food.
Yeah, it's a little callback to, I don't even remember this until I saw this today, that Yoda used to spin his chair. And in Revenge of the Sith, when they're on the ship at the end, when he's talking to Bail Organa and Obi-Wan, when he wanted to talk to one or the other, he would use the Force to spin the chair one way or the other way. And I guess that's Grogu doing the same thing. And he also got his little jelly bean.
Yep.
Right? Looks like that was a jelly bean, you think, right?
Yeah, those like jelly beans.
Yeah, you have to get a little jelly bean. Thankfully, though, I got to be honest, because we just did our Mando season 1 and 2 recaps, and I was looking, and you had mentioned how Grogu's hunger gets him into trouble.
Yep.
I was when it zoomed in, you know how they like changed the focus from the jelly beans to his face. I was like, this is about to screw them over, isn't it? His hunger. He's gonna eat all of them, and then someone's gonna attack him.
Well, it didn't screw him over. Also,
Yeah.
Rob, one other note that we learned from Greek Car Hero Exposition Dump Pete that Moff Gideon is at a New Republic tribunal, so that's where he is at the moment.
We have
What
the
was
location.
it? What was the word?
A New Republic tribunal.
What's it, like basically a prison?
Yeah, basically like he's like on trial for his war crimes.
Okay, so he's probably being held and he's on trial and he'll probably go to prison.
Yeah, that's the plan anyway.
Maybe it'll be the same prison that Andor was in.
So we'll see if that happens here. And then we get the great sequence here where like we find out, Pete, this surprised me. I did not expect to go this direction, that Mando wants a droid to help him navigate the situation on Mandalore. Apparently the potential the planet's been poisoned and then it might not be safe to go on there. So he wants to take IG-11 back with him to sort of help him navigate the planet here. And Greek Car is like, hey, like he's been destroyed. We were lucky we found all these parts, which Pete, I will also point out here, very convenient. His self-destruct may have been perfectly preserved as much as it did, but that's besides the point. But this thing, in terms of that, I think it's also ironic here that Greek's like, you can do any droid you want. Like, no, this droid.
Yeah, I still think he has that distrust to droids. I don't think that that's ever going to go away. I think he has the trust in that one droid, and that's the one he wants, and that's it. Doesn't matter. So I'm glad that they kind of kept that storyline going for him.
Yeah, I did like that here. And Nick, I think it was fun when we tried to build him, and then we see that like he automatically defaults to his setting here of like, oh, like we're gonna, like I have to go back to killing the child. And I thought it was funny that like the end up that Mando screws up so badly and he's throwing Grogu around to save him. Then the helper droid is the only reason that Grogu's still alive, because he just drops the bust of Greek Karga on his head.
Right, because if you remember, IG's armor is
Bulletproof,
which makes him such a great bounty hunter.
Yeah. And
yeah, they got lucky that little thing fell on him, or else I don't know. I guess Grogu would have died.
Yeah. We'll skip the pirates. We'll wrap up the storyline here. We get the Babu Frick species trying to repair this thing, and Pete, this sequence is hysterical. We see Grogu and Mando sitting in the tiny little shop to try and fix the droid. This is so much fun.
Yeah, it was. It was very cool. It adds that kind of element of, I don't want to say comedic relief. It was funny, but it wasn't anything like making jokes. But it makes the show a little bit more lighthearted, and I think it was a nice little break between the serious stuff that we get with this episode.
Yeah, we also learned, Pete, that the IG-11's memory unit has been corrupted, and that's why he went back to the original programming. And like, if Mando can find him a new memory chip, that we can fix him and get him back to this nurturing program that Keel had.
Yeah, and this concerns me. I think if we spend more than one more episode on getting a memory chip for the droid, I wonder if we're going to get much of Mandalore this season, or if it's going to go into season 4. Now it's me being greedy. Maybe it's going to work out where season 3 may end with him finally getting to Mandalore, and then season 4 is going to be where all this happens. But I don't know if I like all these little side quests already.
Yeah. Nick, what was the funnier part of this part of the episode here? Was it Carl Weathers like bending down and like showing through the pot, like translating through the like little port?
No. The funny part's when Grogu just grabbed one of them.
Yeah, Grogu wants a pet.
He just grabbed one of them and started hugging it, and then when they pushed him away, the best part is he went back and tried to hug him again, and they were like, no, and then he was like, sorry, he's young.
Yeah, that was very funny. That got me laughing so hard.
I like that he tried again. That was the best part to me. Is that like after they pushed him away, he just extends his arms once again.
Yeah, Grogu's around like a puppy, Pete.
Absolutely, I thought that was hysterical. I think him trying to grab one of them was really funny.
Yeah. We saw this last year too.
They called him Bad Baby.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys use the subtitles. Do you use subtitles when you watch?
I do not. I probably should have for that sequence though.
It helped me so much. I was actually thinking during that scene. I actually know what. Like, I'm assuming that was Babu Frick. If not, it was one of his species, right?
It's his species. They according to Wikipedia, it was not Babu Frick himself.
Okay, but you couldn't understand a word he was saying. But with the subtitles, you actually understand everything he was saying.
Yeah.
No, I would recommend you put them on.
Yeah, it's also fun because it's also a callback to season 2 when he's being left with the frog lady when Mando goes off with Bo-Katan for his mission that like he wants to adopt a frog as a pet there too.
You just love bringing the frog lady back into it, don't you?
Yeah.
You just love doing that to me. Yeah, I mean it's definitely a direct callback. I mean, it was. I think this was much better than the whole frog lady sequence, but definitely a callback.
Yeah, and then we see here, Nick, we also get the introduction of these pirates. They're teasers of the damn pirates again. There's no Hondo, but it's a different group.
Yeah, this is really getting crazy now. They've had pirates like 4 or 5 times in the last 6 months in any sort of Star Wars show, and it's not been Hondo once.
No, we get this guy named Vane, who apparently P has a backstory of Greek Karga and that they were drinking buddies, and then apparently the school where Grogu went to last year was used to the bar, and now like they want to drink at the bar, and it leads to a fight where Mando and Greek Karga just kill 4 of the pirates and Bane on his merry way. And I think this guy, unfortunately, become a recurring like nemesis for us throughout the season.
Yeah, another kind of side mission enemy kind of thing going on with Mando. I'm okay with it. I think it's a lot better than the Pikes with Boba Fett. I think they're approaching it better, and I think they can organically add the pirates into a lot of different pieces. This episode has got me very worried that there's just too much to cover, but I could be wrong, and we could have it organically happen at a good pace.
How incredible do those pirates look?
The
costume design, it's just perfect. They look so good. All the aliens look so good.
They did too. I know, but the guy on the ship did look a little rough, in my opinion.
Was that the boss?
Boss, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't look that great, but the
clump of seaweed.
Yeah,
yeah, Dr. Seaweed. I'm calling him. We can call him.
Well, he did look like he belonged to Pirates of the Caribbean, though.
Yeah, maybe one of the animatronics is having to break loose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we see like after the kill, like when they leave the planet there, Pete, that like we get a badass dogfight in space when Vane and some of his buddies try and kill Mando's revenge for murdering 4 of their buddies, and like Mando's moves are incredible on that ship.
Oh, phenomenal! I mean, he flies that ship really well. There's that I particularly like when they lose him and he just keeps kind of picking them off. I thought that was a really cool element. So that wasn't just always on Mando the entire duration of that scene. There was different shots that was away from Mando. It was more on the pirates. That sequence was very, very cool.
Yeah, Nick, what do you think of the pirate boss here? Doctor was called. I thought I was going to call him Dr. Seaweed.
Kind of reminds me of Grievous. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Did you feel like Grievous thing or just me?
I think it might have been just you.
It's funny that you mentioned that. It kind of reminds me of the whole Grievous on the ship talking.
That's what I mean. Not the
like
character.
The scene was almost like 1 for 1.
Yeah.
And the way they shot it, where like he stands up and he's talking, and they zoom in as he's talking, it was like almost perfect to what Grievous did with Anakin and Obi-Wan. So I agree with you.
And the dogfight, I just loved how he was like hiding. It reminded me so much of, I think it was episode 6 of the show, chapter 6, The Prisoner.
Yeah.
Is that the right? When he was like hiding and taking out all the guys at the end, it kind of reminded me of the same idea.
I love that episode.
I know you do.
Yeah, that was the first real horror episode of Mandalorian.
Yeah, that ending though reminded me a lot of this, except it was in space.
Yeah, his name is Glorian Shard, so that's the name of the pirate.
Gloria?
Glorian.
Oh. I thought they would finally use a real name.
Yeah, I thought for a second there, Pete, we would just, get to play our Gloria sound bump.
Is there any Dr. Seaweed sound dubs we have, or
was it Glorian what?
Glorian Shard. It's an odd name.
Terrible name.
Oh, Gorian. Yeah, he's a rough character. Rough name.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a shout out for Pete, by the way, that sound drop.
I didn't even hear it. We don't usually hear them on our end. Yeah. You hear it, the audience hears it, but we and Pete usually don't hear it.
Yeah, we're left in the dark. It's okay. It's a limitation of Zoom sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, when you play the intro and the outro music, we just wait till you start talking because we can't hear it.
Yeah, I think it's a Zoom thing here, but I will point out here that was a fun sequence here. He escapes, hits the turbo button and flies away here, and I think Pete's definitely not the last scene of these pirates.
No, I think this is going to be something that reoccurs throughout the entire season.
Yeah. Next, okay, the last thing here, if you go to this planet, I think it's called Calavale or
I'm gonna say Calaville.
yeah, Calavel. So he goes to meet Bo-Katan, and we found out that Bo-Katan is really, really depressed at this point in her life.
Yeah, she doesn't look the same. I did notice they gave her a new wig though, and she looks a lot better. She looks very similar now than she did in the animated shows, but she is not happy.
Yeah, she's not here. And we find out basically that, she has been abandoned by her clan when she didn't come back with the dark saber. And then she basically like says to like as like a whole attitude, like, oh, like this is worthless. There's no Mandalore left to save. And then it's like, like, oh, you have your dark saber, go swing in the air and go get the Mandalorians to follow you. So like I did think like various things to see, like a very salty Bo-Katan.
A very defeated Bo-Katan. I think Bo-Katan is finally understanding that the sword is all that's important to these people, right? I mean, it's just kind of like she's just defeated. Just like, yeah, go ahead, wave that sword, and they'll just follow you. It doesn't matter if you're a good leader. It doesn't matter if you're a good person, good fighter, whatever it is. As long as you got that stupid sword, they'll follow you, kind of a thing. And I think this sets up the character well for a very interesting either redemption arc in this season or maybe of a follower of Din Djarin.
Yeah, Nick, what do you think we're setting up here at Bo-Katan?
Do you think it's time for my theory?
If it's your theory, you can say it till the end of the this like a minute here, because I want to point out like one thing here, because she does point out, she gives them the correct information that it's under the former capital city of Mandalore, which is like Sundria, I think.
Yeah, she says it in like a tone though that like, could get you concerned, but that is what did. But I think that's just her being salty, I don't think it's anything personal. I think she's just very mad. And I've also said this countless times before in this podcast that we always say, or excuse me, not us, but people who don't really know Star Wars extended material and they go, oh, Bo-Katan, she's from the Clone Wars. They think of her as like, yeah, the good guy. Like she's not. I've said this before. I've used this exact quote with my fingers. She's not a good guy. So her being salty and being personally mad at Mando is possible.
Yeah, man, Philip Pete's very much like, yeah, like I'll tell you where it is. You want to do something, go on a fool's errand, you go. I don't care. Like, whatever.
Yeah, I think she's more defeated than anything. I think she's finally kind of, I don't know. I feel like if she cared about the Darksaber and once she heard that Din Djarin still had it, I felt like her face would have perked up and be like, oh, really? Let me go with you. Like I feel like that would have got me more on the sense of, okay, Bo-Katan's back on her, her normal ways here. She wants that Darksaber, but now she's like, yeah, go do what you want with it. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, and Nick, before we get to your theory here, I'll point out real quick that Katie Sackhoff now is getting co-lead billing with Pedro Pascal. So like they have big things planned for her this season.
Good. Love Bo-Katan.
Because this is the first time I think somebody other than Pedro Pascal has gotten like main starring billing, Pete, in this show.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to go the Mandalore angle, you have to go heavy with Bo-Katan, especially her role in all of the Mandalorian story arcs in Clone Wars.
Yeah, so for the audience here, not familiar with the TV, how it works, usually this first, like the credits you tell you like, oh, like the main cast gets like billed like on top, and it's all the guest stars afterwards here. And the first couple of seasons, it's in Pedro Pascal as the main cast, then guest stars. So for me, seeing Katie Sackhoff's name pop right behind him for the rest of the guest stars, a big like alarm bell going off. Like, oh, she's gonna be very important this season.
Do they credit Grogu?
No, they don't.
Okay.
I will also point out here for credit discussion here, we have two guys who are credited in this season here who I think their names are, I gotta go back to the Wikipedia page from Mandalorian season 3. But there's two actors who are credited here that nobody seems to know what characters they're playing. Yeah, which is very interesting.
Is like the pirate count, maybe?
No, the Pirates is credited, but there are two guys in the supporting cast. Brandon Wayne, Lateef Crowder are listed in the guests and things here, and nobody can identify what character they're playing.
But I would imagine that just means that they're going to run into another character similar to, what was the pirate's name again?
Vane.
Vane. I think they'll just run into another character like Vane, and it'll just be somebody that we haven't had credited yet.
Because Vane and Glorian Shard and the pirate Coxswain are all credited in the...
Yeah, I think we just run into another guy like that. Or you're saying they were already in the show?
They're already in the show. They were in this credit for this episode. We have no idea who they are.
Maybe one of the Babu Frick people.
No, they credited the Babu Frick person. It was Shirley.
Oh, that's interesting then.
As I said, I think it's interesting here. I think Pete, these are going to be Mandalorians that we're going to learn about. I feel like the couple of ones who were in the beginning.
Yeah.
get uncovered.
Yeah, they had a bunch of different actors and actresses there, so it's possibly that. Yeah,
I was actually thinking about how I would have loved to do that because, like, how many people were there? How many Mandalorians? 50?
I'd say at least like 40.
Yeah, like I could have dressed up and gone like this a couple times, had to shoot, took a payday, and left. I
Could
would have
have
loved it. Would have been great.
snuck all three of us in there. Nobody would have known.
Yeah, it would have been great.
Yeah, would have been great here. But before we get to the trackers here, Nick, I know you have a big theory you want to promote.
I do. I have a theory on how the rest of the season is going to play out, and I think it makes sense on numerous levels. So, unfortunately for Pete, I have to spoil the Bad Batch because I think they released these at the same time on purpose. So, in the episode of the Bad Batch, towards the end, I believe, what was the guy's name again? The guy that we liked?
Oh,
Haywood? That's definitely not it.
I'll look it up here 1 second. It was
he
guy,
says,
Doctor voiced by Jimmy Simpson.
yeah, that guy. So
Yeah.
he says to the Kaminoan lady and the other, and excuse me, the other lady of the Empire.
Oh, Dr. Hemlock.
Dr. Hemlock, not Haywood. They got rid of Camino because they did not because they wanted to stop cloning, because they didn't need it anymore. They can clone elsewhere, and Omega said that same thing, right?
Yep.
So I believe that when they go to Mandalore, it's going to be an Imperial cloning facility on Mandalore. And the reason I believe that is, I've said countless times, if you are the Imperials and you just got Grogu, you just had him, he were this close and he got away, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to try again. And I'm thinking, well, Moff Gideon can't try again because he's, as you mentioned, on trial. So how do you try again? You have Grogu fall right into your laps by showing up at your cloning facility. And then I'm also thinking how that also makes sense because how does Moff Gideon have the Darksaber? He went to Mandalore to create to destroy it, which we've seen happen, and create a cloning facility where he was challenged and won the saber. So I have a feeling that they're going to go to Mandalore, find an Imperial cloning facility, start a whole new thing with the Empire and getting Grogu out of there. And that's what happened to Mandalore.
Pete, what do you think about this theory?
pretty good. I have to say, it just I don't know how I combat the theory, right? I mean, I feel like it's like you don't know, you don't know, but it would answer a lot of questions. It's definitely a sound theory, in my opinion.
Yeah, and based on this news that John Favreau said that they have a long way they can go with Mandalorian, no immediate end inside. They have a long time to build this correctly if they want to.
I think that'd be an interesting thing because if we go to Mandalore and it's just kind of nothing, and he just kind of goes under there and he does his task, which is to bathe in the mines, right? If he just does that with no interruption and no like danger, that's kind of weird, right? Like
somebody's gonna be there.
You do a mission in a video game, you watch a movie, you watch a show, and they say, take this, you might need it, the gun, you're gonna need it. If they don't just say that and then no bad guys show up. They're showing up.
Somebody's gonna be there.
Yeah, someone's gonna be there, something's gonna show up maybe after he's there. I don't think it's gonna go as well as he thinks it's gonna go.
Yeah, I think that's for sure here. So I think that's a good place to wrap. Yeah, we're gonna start going into some of our stuff that we do every week here on the podcast. We're gonna update first the character draft for the season here. So to refresh the teams here, we had no action in week 1, but I want to remind everyone what we drafted here in terms of this here. So after week 1, here's our team stack. I'll see how we're feeling about this one here. So Pete's team: Sabine Wren, Fennec Shan, Cobb Vanth, and Cad Bane. Nick's team is Casca Reeves, who is Sasha Banks from WWE, who played Mandalorian season 2. Ahsoka, Thrawn, and Black K. My team's Axwo, Boba Fett, Mayfeld, and Han Solo. So how are we feeling about our teams right now after watching?
I'm getting very, very nervous because we saw Bo-Katan and they weren't there. And not only were they not there, it seemed like they were gone. Not just away at the moment, gone.
Yeah, I feel like also I will point out this is, I don't know if it's technically a spoiler, but I know that when they had the Mandalorian premiere event last night, that Ming-Na Wen was there. So it is a point, Pete, that Fennec Shan is going to show up, but she had to go to the event.
Oh.
Sure. Listen, I never am confident about my team, so I'll believe it when I see it.
I will say also, I feel like there's a good chance that Sabine Wren will show up at some point. I mean,
I have to say, I feel like all of the Mandalorian armor that we saw in that picture with Pedro Pascal and John Favreau, everyone but that purpled armored Mandalorian person was there, as far as I could tell.
I think I saw all of them in that scene.
So I'm hoping that I'm right, that bird in that color scheme is Sabine Wren, and she will be there for at least one episode.
And that's what the whales were teasing.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, imagine this is wild. The whales teasing. We get our post credit scene at the show is Ezra Bridger.
My luck, though, that's just how it's going to happen. Sabine Wren's not going to show up. It's going to be Ezra, and I'm done. So it's.
Yeah, well, that's the character draft here. I'm sure we'll have some action on this soon. But next, we'll go to our trackers. And Nick, we have a lot of trackers for this show.
I think we need to make a new tracker.
Trackers
for every show, and we need to track how often Hondo is teased. At this point, I really do, because this is getting crazy.
Yeah, so you mentioned Hondo here. No Hondo. We did get more pirates, but not Hondo. 18.
Another Hondo tease, but no Hondo.
Yep. Pete, the Bo-Katan.
He even got teased twice, because then the guy says he had to answer to my boss, and I'm thinking, oh, it's not him. His boss is Hondo, and then his boss wasn't even Hondo.
Yeah, that was messed up. Yeah, so Pete, the Bo-Katan tracker is back here. We got one on the board. It's now 14 total Bo-Katan appearances.
I think we're getting Bo-Katan 80% of the show.
Yeah. I mean, she's making.
I think she misses one, maybe two episodes.
Yeah, so that's going on here. Nick, I'm not updating a Darksaber tracker as a 15. I think it has to be seen on the screen for us to count. Even though I know Mando has, I want to actually see the blade.
I agree with you, but what about like seeing it hang off his belt?
I don't think that counts. I mean, he's not using it.
So it's Darksaber ignites.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise, it's there every episode. It's not pointless.
But do you see it in this episode? I don't remember.
I don't remember. I don't think she asks us he has it. He doesn't even really show it.
Yeah, I don't think he hangs it from his belt or anything. I didn't see it.
Only on the ship.
Yeah.
All right. So no action cameos yet, Pete. So we're at 12 for that one. We're going back to the Mando season 1.
Possibly going to happen this season. Not sure, though.
Yeah, Nick, we did hit an anime cameo. We had Bo-Katan hits both of those trackers, so it's up to 7 now.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then no live action cameo, because that was not Babu Frick, you said, right?
It's not Babu Frick. I double checked.
Okay. And he was confirmed. That means we're going to see him?
I believe so, yes.
I wonder how they're going to distinguish between whether or not it's him and not. Like, I know the subtitles did, like, usually it'll say, like, the name of the character or something like that, and it did not say, like, anything like that.
Yeah, up here, next up here, Pete. 2 more planets he went to. We went to the Calavela and wherever the covert's hanging out, that's a separate planet. So that's 2 more planets, so 14 total Mando planets.
And that's awesome, yeah. The more planets, the better for Star Wars, I always say.
14 planets and 17 episodes. Gotta love it.
Yeah. Well, 20, technically. You got the Boas. And next up
here, I don't count the Boas.
No, we did. Because he did go to 1 there.
All right, fine.
Next up, Nick, this is the way. Now to 28 over the course of this show. We got 4 more in this episode.
I think like I said, I think you stop for a while, and then we don't hear from. You know what I'm saying? I think we stop for a while, they don't say it, and then we hear it again later on. I think it's one of those things that it's like that. You're gonna hear it, and 4 times in an episode, you're not gonna hear for 5 episodes, and we're gonna hear it 3 more times, something like that.
All right. Mando jobs. Pete, he got offered a job, he did not take it, so still 8 jobs.
I mean, do we consider getting the droid part a job?
Kind of is.
I mean, he hasn't done the job yet.
It's not a job that someone assigns him, so I'm going to say no, but like it is a job, but like he accepts it himself almost. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
right, he wants the droid.
I view that more as like, oh, I had to go buy a part to fix the droid. So I feel like,
yeah.
I think the job was Greek Car offering to be the marshal, replace Cara Dune. He said no.
Right.
Next up here, Grogu eating here. So, Pete, 10 times now because Grogu ate a piece of candy this episode.
We're gonna get more of that. I think we're gonna get that at least 2 more times this season.
I think
feed the kid.
Yeah, I think at least once an episode we're getting eating.
If they just feed the kid, he won't be hungry. I've only seen Mando feed him like once when they had soup. When they had the soup together.
I think it's season 1's the only time I remember him eating, like being fed by Mando.
Yeah. Other than that, he's got to go out and get his own. So I don't blame the kid.
He's learning valuable lessons though about how to hunt and gather. Next up here, the last tracker on the board here, Nick, are named Mandalorian, because we try to count every Mandalorian on that beach with a madness, or counting named Mandalorian. So I got 4 this episode, which is Bo-Katan, Mando, the Armorer, and Paz Vizsla. So we're 4 to start this one off.
I'm going to argue with you.
Yeah.
You are a Mandalorian no more. That number's 3. He's not a Mandalorian. He was a Mandalorian.
Bo-Katan views him as a Mandalorian.
That's true. Yeah, I'll give it to you. I'll give you both.
All right, so next up here, MVP and LVP rankings here. So we're going to look at the best and worst characters from the Mandalorians, like as we go through as each episode, the best and worst here. For reference here, we're going to do the Bad Batch board to go up here to update where we are on that. So in terms of what's going on with this board here, Pete, you remember this from last week here, and we rate, and the Bad Batch board has not got a lot of act turns of like getting people really positive here, but we are on this board, Pete.
Look at that. We made it.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna make the Mando board, but we are on the Bad Batch board.
Is the Mando board going to be resetting, or are we going to take a Mando board from? We don't really have a past one, right?
This is the start of the Mando board.
All right, and I guess my further question to you is, we've never really done a show that's had multiple seasons except Bad Batch, but are we going to be doing, like, let's say Andor season 2? Are we going to carry that list over or make another one?
I think we should carry it over.
I agree.
All right, so we'll start out here with the MVP of the episode here. I'm going to throw this out to the panel here. Is there any way it's not Mando?
It is.
I want to try to be the odd man out and say, yeah, there's a way, but I feel like it was so centered around him. So,
yeah, I mean, everything he does is like brilliant this episode. Like, he's really puts the armor in her place. He gets the information from Bo-Katan. He tries to fix the droid. He kills some pirates. He escapes from the pirates. I mean, what doesn't Mando do?
I just feel like everyone did a good job, and I can make a case to give it to certain characters, sure, but I can make the strongest case for Mando, so that's it.
I think it's a clean sweep for Mando to start out the season.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
LVPs. Pete, you want to start? Who was the worst character of the episode?
I'll just put the armor out there. I think she goes from, in the Book of Boba Fett, saying, yeah, it's totally possible to get back to the Mandalore race, to now like, oh, by the way, no, you're done. You can't do it. I just gave you that as I feel like no one else had that kind of change. I don't know, like, and then I'm really struggling to say she was an LVP, so I'm gonna give it to the armorer.
Nick, who's your LVP for the week?
I did the exact same thing as Pete, and I'm giving it to the armorer, but I really kind of don't want to. Like, it's just no one else deserved it, so I feel like if anyone, I have to give it to her.
I'm giving it to Vane. Vane was a very stupid pirate this episode.
I liked Vane,
but was he? But was he really? Right? He comes in with, "We helped you buy all this." He had the numbers. Like, was he really stupid? Or was he more like, hey, you should be respecting us?
Yeah, I mean, like, if he doesn't respect his old buddy either. When his buddy says, hey, this is the school, I'll offer you a drink in my office. Let's come to my office. We'll drink.
See, the thing is, though, he didn't say this is a school. He said this is my school. And that's what got Vane mad. And I agree with Vane.
Yeah. Well, I'm still giving an LVP for, like, his very poor tactics. They had him Mando outgunned in space. They couldn't catch him.
I do think it was a little crazy that once he learned it was a school, he still tried to go inside to get a drink. I feel like he'd just be like, oh, where'd you put the bar?
Yeah.
Oh, it's right across the street. Okay, I'll just drink in there instead. I feel like that's not a huge deal.
His stubbornness got 8 of his guys killed.
Yeah, that I do completely agree with. Like, if the bar was across the street, you really just got 8 guys killed because you didn't want to walk 20 feet? But we don't know where the bar was. The bar was on the other side of town. Then I don't know.
I mean, Grief Karga said, hey, like, this is a school. It's no longer a bar. Let's go have a drink in my office. And you could have just, like, I had a drink there and had all your guys still alive.
So do you think that they closed the bar, they opened a school, did they not open another bar?
I feel like there is a bar. I feel like it's not, you're not allowed to do, it's probably like, you can go have a drink, but you can't, like, go, like, hire bounty hunters to the bar.
Well, if they didn't open a bar, that's a problem, and then this society is not as good as we thought. because look, we tried prohibition in the United States and it doesn't work.
Yeah, I feel like for sure there's a bar somewhere. It's like more PC bar, I guess.
Yeah.
On the Star Wars version of the Cheers bar.
Yeah.
All right, so next up here, we'll go to some grades. I grade us on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is worse than 1978 holiday special. 10 is the best episode since the Andor prison break episode here. So Nick, give us your grade for this week.
I'm gonna give this week an 8. And I think it was just a really good episode. Didn't have any flaws, but it wasn't something that like blew me away that I'm going to go back and rewatch. It was really good. I have no complaints. But I'm like I said, I'm not turning it on again after this podcast and like, let me watch again.
Yeah, I was a 7. I feel like it had a lot of setup work to do. It did it very, very neatly, very quickly too. It didn't waste like a lot of fluff. We had 32 minutes of credits in and out. So give them credit for that. I think did a lot of good action sequences, but like I don't want more of this. I don't want more of these fillers. I want to have like this could be our setup piece. Fine, and we'll go for it. That's a 7 for me. So Pete, how you rating this one?
I'm going with Nick here. I'm giving it an 8. Hate to be boring, but pretty much what Nick said. I mean, I can't find much wrong with it, but it's not something that's got me wanting to come back and watch it a couple times, and nothing, momentous really happens other than it was a really good episode of TV. And I'm hoping that the rest of the season can follow through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, put it this way: like this episode, what's the point of all these episodes, except the last one, to make you watch the next one, right?
It did.
I can't wait to watch the next one.
And speaking of the next one here, we'll go to chapter 18 predictions. How we wrap up the week here. So
that was fantastic, Mike. That was a fantastic transition.
Yep, you brought it up perfectly here. So there are a lot of ways to go here. I'm trying to decide between whether it's we're going for the data chip, we're going to find the Mandalorians, are we going to, try and build the droid? I think my prediction here is I think we go to Tatooine to find the data chip. That's my guess here, is that he goes and talks to Peli Miles and says, hey, I need to talk to our Jawas and try and try and get this droid chip. I think that's where we're going. Pete, what's your prediction?
I think I think we follow the chip story arc. I think I think you're right. I think Tatooine's the place to go for parts that you can't normally find. Shit, I really hope we're wrong. I don't want to be on Tatooine again, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
No, we're gonna be there. We know we see it in the trailer.
I know.
And plus, they also wiped out before you go. I thought they wiped out a lot of the trailer footage in this episode. I feel like we might wipe more of it out next week.
It did. I always appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I was gonna come in here with a nice big prediction and say I don't even know what I was gonna think of it on the spot probably, but when you said that, I just went, oh crap, he's right. So exactly what you said.
Tatooine going to the droid chip to visit your favorite character, Peli Mano.
Yep. Look who it is. It's Mando. I can help you find it.
Let's go talk to the Jawas.
Yep. This is literally exactly
so this is what scares me. I hope that we all know if this happens, she's not just going to give him the chip. It's going to go do this for me and I'll give you the chip, or go find it here. Like, it's not going to be easy, right? Like, I feel like we're going to waste an episode on doing the thing to get the chip, but we don't actually get the chip by the end of the episode. And this is what scares me about this much side mission-y things happening in this first episode. We have 8 episodes of content. You know damn well that none of them are going to be over an hour, right? Because Disney Plus just has this hard stop rule of nothing over an hour. I fear that we're going to have either a rushed episode, a rushed season, or a season of nothing. Like nothing of actual importance happening until season 4. I have a funny feeling this season 3 is going to be a lull now, just from the way that they did this.
I just got a feeling. I looked at the director list from earlier. Carl was doing episode 4. I feel like we're not going to have IG-11 back up to episode 4. I feel like the back end.
But see, that's what scares me.
That means 2 and 3 are searching for the chip. 4 is getting the droid back. 5 is going to Mandalore, and then you're stuck with half the season, really.
3 episodes.
I feel like there are ways to do it, make it entertaining, but I feel like that's a prediction. I feel like I can see this general
if they do it if they do it that way, episodes 6, 7, and 8 have to be absolute bangers. Like you cannot waste almost 3/4 of the season to get to Mandalore and then nothing happens when you're on Mandalore. Like you need to make sure it's really good.
Here's my sign of hope. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong, because again, I mentioned this on the Bad Batch pod. No, we didn't record that yet. Secretly, the audience doesn't know we already recorded that. But, you guys know more about like media than I do. If Carl Weathers is directing the episode, does that mean he's less likely to be acting in the episode, or it really doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter because the one he directed season 2 was the one on Nevarro where he.
So it doesn't make a difference if you're in it or not directing it, right?
No, it does make a difference.
That was my sign of hope. I was like, oh, maybe if he's directing it, he won't be in it because it's hard for him to be acting and directing himself at the same time. But I guess not. So, yep, that's it. We figured out the whole season.
At least the first.
It can still be really good. It probably will still be really good. Like even today, like this episode, I don't like the direction actually they took this in because now I feel like half our season's ruined. But it's still good, so I'm okay with it.
It might be a basic plot, but they execute the basic plot very well. I would be satisfied.
Yeah, but I also, knowing again their release schedule, I don't want to wait another 2 years for like something momentous to happen. I think Mandalorian has been really good at having really big moments happen every single season. And I think we need something here to keep it going and not saying, okay, we set up season 4 using season 3. I think to me, that would be a failure for the show, even though it'll still probably be good. I think it would be a failure if they just use this as a setup for 4.
Jon Favreau also said, and I completely forgot to mention this in the news, that the crying that people did at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, Star Wars Theory was famous for it, a whole bunch of channels on YouTube, you could see reactions when Luke came back, people were like in tears. He said that's going to happen again this season.
Yeah, he said there's a big secret that they're keeping that this going to get the audience fired.
Yeah. I have no clue what that could be.
I took my shot and I said it was Han Solo.
You did. I mean, who else can it be?
Lando?
I don't think even Han Solo, Lando, whoever it may be, I don't think the audience is going to be as crazy as they were about Luke, right?
Maybe not.
I don't see anyone that the audience could be as crazy about as Luke, except Anakin/Vader, and please do not do that.
Yeah, I don't think they can do that.
If they do that, I don't know what. Then there's no consequences in life anymore.
Yeah, well, that's it for this week here. I want to thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate your Pete. If you want to follow on social media, I'm going to do that.
At PJ Consadori 29, New York Rangers just landed Patrick Kane. Huge acquisition, probably a rental, but who knows? If he takes a huge discount, maybe he'll re-sign him. But anyway, you can follow me there on Twitter, just doing some stuff for the Sky Guys and also retweeting some hockey stuff for the Rangers. All right, absolutely there. Nick, Pete, one more time, you want to follow us on the social media streets, how can I do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. And I got to say, Mike, now that we're in the home stretch of the NBA season, our over-unders are unreal.
Yep.
Combined, I think we're 7 of 8.
That's pretty good.
And the only one we're going to lose was me losing the Pistons on the over because Cade Cunningham got hurt.
Yep, that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
You guys will follow me on Twitter, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. This week on the Just on the Celebrate podcast, we did our NBA midseason show with the Sorry to Interrupt guys. We talked some NBA with them, and we did the Rocky Moore rankings with Nick's brother Phil and fellow Sky Guy has Mike Paganti.
That's a good one. That's definitely a good combo.
And Nick's ratings were in the list. He did skew the board a little bit.
Good.
All right, that's it. We'll be back next week. I mentioned this here. We might be a day delayed because we're trying to make sure Nick is a good husband and his wife's birthday is on the day after releases. So we don't record the date of release, but we're not recording one day later. So that episode's going to your feed a little maybe Thursday night, probably Friday morning. So one day delay in the pod for you guys. But we have to make sure we have to protect Nick's marriage here.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for us here. We're going to be back next week. A lot of fun Mandalorian stuff coming up here. But until then, guys, may the Force be with you.